Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user Kill125E3. Am I the a-hole to ask my husband to block his female friend who warned him not to marry me? I, 26 female, want my husband, 27 male, to immediately block one of his friends, Kyla, 27 male. He thinks I am overreacting and I want opinions from some cool-headed people on if I'm just acting crazy or this is something that would cross the line for you. My husband has a group of 8 friends he is close with since his college days. Kyla is one of his friends. When my husband and I started dating, he introduced me to all of them and everyone was very friendly. I used to hang out with them frequently. I am an introvert and so is my husband. I would always ask him to spend time alone as being in social settings just saps all my energy away. His friends, and especially Kyla, always made it a point to tell me how he hangs out with them less after he started dating me. Kyla also had a weird energy around me. If I was with my husband, she would be the most friendliest with me. However, as soon as he walked away, she acted like I did not exist. My husband hates to be touched by others, but Kyla would always tease him by trying to hug him, mess his hair, etc. I never felt she was flirting with him, but just teasing him to make him annoyed. Overall, she just feels like a person who has severe social boundary issues. We got married 2 years ago and things have been great between us. Last week, we had our second marriage anniversary and invited a bunch of people. His friends stayed back after all the guests left and we were all drinking and chatting. One of his friends, Jen, became a bit tipsy and started complimenting me on how beautiful our house is, how I care for my husband, and how he has changed for the better since marriage. Everyone was laughing at my husband at how much of a slob he was when he was single. Jen then pointed at Kyla and said, "You better pay up cause you had bet that their marriage would not even last for 2 years. Everyone became silent and started changing the topic. I also did not want to spoil the mood and let it go, but it stuck in my head. After everyone left, I asked my husband what Jen was talking about. He also had noticed Jen saying that and was ready with a full explanation. He told me the story of what happened when we got engaged. When he proposed to me, he had not told his friends that he was going to do that. We went on a trip to Puerto Rico and he surprised me there. We put our engagement pictures on Instagram while we were on the trip and it was a big surprise to everyone as we were only dating for 1 year. When he came back and met all his friends, everyone congratulated him. However, Kyla started ranting about how he was a fool to propose so quickly, and she felt that I was not the right girl from him. Seems like she said some unkind things about me implying I was a gold digger. My husband's family is wealthy, but so is mine. She had said that she bet we would break up within 2 years if we got married. That is why Jane was taunting her about how happy my husband was with me. I was very furious at this point as I feel this is something he should have told me. I asked him to tell me truthfully if he had ever dated Kyla or had any history with her, as he has always told me that he has never dated anyone from his friend group. He said that he has, of course, not dated or hooked up with Kyla. However, Kyla had asked him out a few times when they were in college and he always politely declined. I asked why he said no to her and he said he just does not have any romantic feelings for her. I can see that because my husband does have a type based on me and the other people he has dated in the past, and Kyla is the opposite of that. I am just mad at her for saying bad things about me, especially after knowing that we were already engaged and betting against my marriage. I told my husband that he needs to minimize contact with Kyla and she is not invited to parties at our house anymore. He feels I am being too harsh for something she said almost 3 years ago. He also pointed out that she has been very supportive to both of us and also helped a lot during our wedding arrangements. He feels she is just blunt and forthright when she speaks, but does not mean those things. He told me to take some time and calm down and we would revisit this topic in a week. He is worried this will completely change the dynamics within his friend group. Am I the a-hole for wanting him to block her and stop inviting her to our house? Do you think I am overreacting? I think betting against our marriage and bad-mouthing me behind my back seems like a huge betrayal. I am also mad at my husband that he kept this fact from me, and also never told me that Kyla asked him out during college days. Am I just being crazy and reactive? How would you react in this situation? I don't want to distance myself from his friends, but I also do not want to see that bitch Kyla's face again. Well, OP, I absolutely understand why you wouldn't want to be in the same setting as Kyla anymore, be in her presence or have her over at your house, which you are 100% in your right to ask for. She shouldn't be invited anymore, and that's just it. It's a 2 yes, 1 no kind of situation. But I don't think you can force your husband to completely cut contact with her. I believe that's something he should decide on himself after you've shared your feelings and how uncomfortable you are about her with him. I think what your husband asked for is fair, that you take a little bit of time and then have another conversation about it. Explain to him again how she behaves with you, how she makes you feel, and that you just don't want her around in your life. And then he needs to decide what he should do. And what do you guys think about OP's situation? How would you handle it? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's check out the community comments. OK Perception 1131 says, not the a-hole. I probably wouldn't be that bothered if someone at the time of my engagement didn't think it would last. It's not uncommon for someone to think that and be pleasantly surprised when the marriage works out. What would bother me is that she clearly has feelings for your husband and, rather than keeping them to herself, because he's married and not interested, she's expressing her feelings by flirting with your husband and icing you out when he's not around. Your husband should have put a stop to that nonsense a long time ago. However, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt by thinking maybe he's clueless and doesn't notice. Now, once you pointed out her behavior to him and explained it was making you uncomfortable, he should have stood up for you. That means he should have had a discussion with her in which he states, I've noticed you're touching me, etc., and it makes me uncomfortable. Also, you're only friendly with my wife when I'm around. I'd like these behaviors to stop. If they don't stop, I won't hang out with you anymore. Note that he needs to state that he's noticed these things and he'd like it to stop. He shouldn't try to put the blame on you by saying, my wife doesn't like it. He needs to man up and stand up for you, his wife. And if she doesn't comply, then he should follow through and cut her out of his life. My husband had a co-worker that stalked his social media and he blocked her even though I said he didn't need to. Your husband should be telling you that he cares more about your happiness than the happiness of another woman who is secretly hoping his marriage will fail because she's in love with him. As per my previous says, not the a-hole. Being blunt or forthright isn't a pass to be rude and contemptuous to your friend's significant other. I consider myself forthright, and yet I can still use manners and tact. I would dump a friend who was so snakish to my husband and I. And 1 hour a day says, it's definitely natural for you to dislike Kyla. Sounds like she's into your husband. It'll probably be hard for him to outright block her considering the dynamic of the friend group, and the last thing you want is to turn all his friends against you. Personally, I don't think blocking her is the solution, but to instead sit him down and seriously voice your concerns. That she would say something like that she touches him too often, that she would bet against your marriage behind your back. That stuff needs to be shut down and he needs to be on your side. Personally, I'd get drunk with them and make a cocky joke to Kyla when you're alone that she's jealous you ended up with him instead of her and laugh in her face. But I'm petty as F, lol. So the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole, but that instead of forcing her husband to block her or ban her from their life, she needs to talk to him to express all of her feelings. So now, let's move on to the update that happened 6 months after the original post. Since my last post, Kyla has pulled some really pathetic crap to stir up issues between my husband and I. After I wrote my post, my husband was trying to convince me that Kyla was just joking when she made those comments, and it happened so long ago. Kyla messaged me the next day apologizing me for her comments and also not making more efforts to connect with me. I accepted her apology and started warming up to her. She started inviting me for brunches and girls' night out with them, and I felt included in their friend group. One day during brunch, I brought up why Kyla really thought our marriage would not work out. Kyla told me that my husband broke up with his long-term ex-girlfriend Joanna 2 months before he started dating me. I knew that part, but Kyla told me that my husband was really heartbroken after the breakup and swore to her that he would stay away from dating anyone. When he met me, my mom set us up on a blind date. She was surprised how quickly we hit it off. Kyla thought that I was his rebound relationship, but when he proposed to me within a year, she was worried that he was making a very rash decision. My husband's family is rich, and she thought it was unwise for him to marry so quickly without knowing me well. She did not know enough about me and that my family is also very well off. That is why she was concerned that I was taking advantage of his vulnerable state. She apologized to me and said that it was wrong for her to assume that, and over the years she has seen how happy we are together. I appreciated her honesty, and Kyla and I became good friends since then and started hanging out more frequently. Then, around 2 months ago, my husband went for a conference to Seattle for 3 nights. After he came back, I got a "Hey girlie" message on Instagram from Joanna, his ex. She told me that my husband contacted her a few months ago and they met in Seattle during the conference, and she could give me more proof if I wanted. I went through my husband's Instagram, but he seems to have blocked her. I made the mistake of mentioning it to Kyla as she was the only person honest to me about Joanna, and she went in detective mode to help me. She was still friends with Joanna on Instagram as they all went to college together and opened her profile. The message sent to me was from a different profile with no followers. We checked her photos and we saw that she attended the same conference as my husband did in Seattle. Kyla suggested I should ask Joanna for more proof and also ask my husband about the same before assuming the worst. I asked my husband if he met Joanna and he said yes. He told me he just met her in the expo hall and chatted with her for a few minutes. I asked him why he did not mention it to me, and he told me it was just a quick conversation and he did not think too much about it. He asked me how I knew about it, and I told him that Kyla mentioned that she saw her pictures at the conference and I thought he might have seen her. I then messaged Joanna again to share more proof. She told me that they have been chatting for the past 2 months and planned to attend the conference together. She shared a log of their messages where my husband was actively flirting with her. The screenshots did look legit, but I did not see any of those messages in my husband's Instagram profile. I talked to Kyla about it as I did not know what to believe. I messaged Joanna to tell us what happened between them, and she told me that he invited her to the room at nights and hooked up. But she does not have any photos as he insisted they do not take any pictures together. I immediately realized it was fake and messaged Joanna to F off. She kept on insisting they were telling the truth, and she spent the nights with my husband in his room all 3 nights. I told her that my husband and I were playing video games, Sea of Thieves, for almost 2 to 3 hours each night after his dinner, as that is what we do to catch up when he is away. Unless Joanna was sitting behind him watching us play until he fell asleep, she was full of crap. I also told my husband about the whole incident, and he told me I should have come to him sooner. He told me that he has gone no contact with Joanna ever since they broke up, and he just ran into her at the conference. He told me I could check his phone and everything to verify that he has blocked her everywhere. I told him I do not need to, and Joanna might have run into him and just decided to F his life by making up stuff. When all the friends met that weekend, my husband and I told everyone about how Joanna sent messages to me and faked everything. Kyla was also telling what happened as she had told her about it. Kyla accidentally let it slip out that it's luckily we were nerds and played video games at night before sleeping. Else props go to Joanna for making up a convincing story. I never told Kyla about the video game stuff. I just told her Joanna is full of crap and I blocked her. It took me until I came home to connect the dots. I told my husband about it and he confronted Kyla. She denied it and told him that I told her about the video game stuff on a phone call, but I don't remember doing it. We have since decided to keep our distance from Kyla. Kyla has called me multiple times to meet up, but I just make up reasons that I am busy. I do not know why she did it, but at this point, I'm not interested in it, and we have decided to just see her on social occasions and avoid hanging out with her as much as possible. I feel stupid that she played me for a fool, and I should have not gone to her when Joanna started messaging me. In hindsight, it seems suspicious that Kyla started telling me about Joanna, and at the same time, Joanna claimed to have an affair with my husband. I do not know what her intentions are, but I am mad enough that I will avoid her as much as possible. I wish I had some proof that she was the one messaging me so that I could expose her. I also feel bad for suspecting my husband, but I am glad that we are on the same page now. Wow, it sounds like Joanna took the keep your friends close and enemies closer thing really seriously. She warmed up to you, gained your confidence, and then tried to wreck your marriage from within with a fake account. That's psycho behavior, and it's a good thing you're gonna keep her out of your life, and so will your husband. So on that note, here's wishing you both the best in the future. Thanks so much for sharing and take care. And now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Pro Revenge, and it's by user CompileCommit. Phone calls for the previous owner who turned out to be my crappy manager. Mobile phones became common in my country around 2004, just as I finished high school. My parents bought me my first phone, a second-hand Nokia. It was bulky and basic, but I promised myself that someday I'd buy a new phone with my own money. When college started, I had a 2-hour daily commute. In high school, I had excelled academically and won several district-level awards. These awards were being distributed during my first year of college. One nationalized bank award finally gave me enough money for a new phone. I bought a Sony Ericsson K300i and a premium SIM card, not realizing it had been abandoned by its previous owner. By the third day, I started receiving calls for a guy named Bitsa from various financial institutions. It turned out the number previously belonged to him, and for 20 years I've been getting these calls. Determined to keep my premium number, I began a routine of blocking wrong numbers. Back then, blocking was device specific, so each time I got a new phone, I had to start over, keeping a list of numbers to block. I got my first job after graduating in 2009. Around 2010, I was assigned to a new project with a notorious reputation for burning people out due to a nefarious project manager named Bits. I didn't know his full name for quite a while. He took pride in making our lives a living hell. Bits ruled with an iron fist. From the moment his team stepped into the office, they were met with a barrage of emails and messages, each more urgent than the last. Bits thrived on creating chaos, often changing project deadlines on a whim, demanding his team work late into the night and through weekends. Bits' presence loomed over every task. He insisted on micromanaging every detail, yet was quick to take credit for any successes, no matter how small. Failures, however, were met with his notorious tirades, publicly berating his team and assigning blame without hesitation. His unpredictable temper kept everyone on edge, afraid to make the slightest mistake. Meetings were another tool in his arsenal of torment. He scheduled them during lunch breaks and after hours, ensuring no one could escape his grasp. These meetings were often pointless, serving only to reinforce his dominance and disrupt any semblance of work-life balance his team might have had. His relentless stream of emails continued around the clock, each carrying a thinly veiled threat, perfection or dismissal. Under his reign, morale plummeted and burnout soared, yet Bits remained oblivious, satisfied only by his complete and total control. I was quite ashamed when I learned that he was from the same area as I was and had gone to the same school, though years before me. In 2012, our company merged with a parent company. Almost nothing changed personal-wise, but infrastructure-wise, we got MS Outlook and an organizational view. That's when I first learned about Bits from an organizational hierarchy perspective. His full name was an eye-opener. It was Bitsa. Now, the name was common enough, but at the time, mobile numbers had an area-specific pattern, so I already knew that the previous owner of my mobile number was from the same area as me. Still, it could be someone else. I wanted to dig deeper. I talked with an old mentor who lived in the same area and had coached several high school students for the last 2 decades. He confirmed my suspicions. I won't go into the details, but it was evident that Bitsa and Bits were the same person. I had been quite pissed with this unknown person named Bitsa for almost a decade by then, and Bits had been the bane of my and several others' existence for quite some time. This is where the revenge lies. First, I unblocked all the numbers in my phone. I was getting 5 to 6 calls daily on average, but after unblocking about 150 numbers, it increased to between 15 and 18. My answering strategy changed drastically. Instead of saying wrong number, I politely explained that the owner had changed his number and provided his current number to update their database. This is where I could be the a-hole. I also volunteered his manager's number in case he tries something else. The fallout was epic. These people had been trying to find him for almost a decade. Banks sold his debt to companies that harass people for a living to get their money back. It turned out he had been taking loans in everyone's names, his wife, parents, uncles, aunts, and giving everyone that same number. He was evading credit card debt and loans of upwards of $200,000, equivalent in USD, but it's a crap load of money where we are from. Apparently, he had almost 20 cases filed against him, but no one could find him. Probably why he thought he could walk on water. There are multiple versions of what happened at the office when his managers started to get calls about him. He was let go about 2 months later. Haven't heard from him since. Well, OP, you got a fantastic twofer there. 1, you got rid of that horrible manager who made everyone's life hell. And 2, no more calls from debt collectors. Good for you, OP, and thanks for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.